it's because Jeremy Bentham, at the very end of the 18th century, had created a map of Pauperland, which purported to describe all the various kinds of poverty, different kinds of poverty. And it just was a very evocative, it seemed to me to be a very resonant image. Pauperland, it's like another part of Britain. It's almost like another country. And in fact, that's partly the idea of the title, is that Pauperland is an elsewhere among the kind of, wealth and well-being that you see around us. It exists in time as well as space. So of course, Pauperland is in the unvisited districts of the great towns and cities and the kind of sink estates and all the dumping grounds where the poor are supposed to reside. In fact, they reside all over the place in country towns and little villages and market towns as well. So it's not quite what it purports to be. But also Pauperland is our long past. The Pauperland is an unvisited heritage trail, I suppose you could say, because at one time you could say a majority of the people of Britain lived in it, because the poor were always many and the rich were few. Now that has been reversed. The poor are a minority and the well-to-do, or those who have a stake in society, are now the majority. In recent years, wealth has been spectacularly rehabilitated. So the rich are no longer seen in terms of jackals or vultures or hyenas or all the other bestiary of exploitation that they were seen as in the 19th century. They've become kind of philanthropists and benefactors of humanity. And I think this is where wealth creationism as a kind of semi-religious doctrine emerges, that we're all pensioners of the rich now. So that they are now our kind of models and inspiration. And I think that transformation has profound significance for contemporary society. Right from the earliest poor laws in the early Elizabethan period until the present day, there have been recurring attitudes towards the poor which echo down the years, which haven't changed. There are two kinds of poor. There's the feckless, impotent poor, and there's the deserving poor. And the deserving poor on the whole have never been a problem. They're the kind of people who, through age or illness or impotence, as they used to call it in the Elizabethan age, or some disability, cannot help themselves. And on the whole, they've been looked after, not always very kindly, but they have been looked after. And then there's the other poor, which is the feckless, improvident poor who wenched and drunk their way through the 18th century and stood shamelessly before the parish pay table in the 19th century and live on benefit in the 20th century. And they carry on their lives regardless of punitive legislation, regardless of kindness, regardless of anything. That division of people into deserving and undeserving poor is much more complicated than it appears, because among the deserving poor also are many who want to work, who would willingly work, who do work, but don't make enough for their sustenance and for the subsistence of themselves and their families. So that makes the whole story much more simple than this easy, facile division into deserving and undeserving. And then again, when you look at those who are labelled undeserving, you find that also among those people, there are people who've been hurt and humiliated and abused, and people who are ill-endowed, people who are vulnerable, people who are frightened, people who have had multiple tragedies visited upon them. And then to add to that seems to me to be vengeful and punitive in the extreme. To add to it gratuitously is incomprehensible.